Hey there, I'm Adrienne with Thousandfold Lotus. I'm a visual learner, so if you're anything like me, you are going to love this video describing what pelvic organ prolapse is. Now, if you have a vagina, you are prone to pelvic organ prolapse. In fact, statistics show that 40% of women already have some degree of pelvic organ prolapse. Now, that is almost 50% of us. So that's a lot. The education needs to happen before the pelvic organ prolapse happens or before the prolapse gets too far. So I'm here to talk to you about what it is. I'm going to pull up the diagram so that you can learn more about it. And I also want you to click the link below, which is my 7-minute pelvic floor workout that you can do every single day to start addressing strengthening your own pelvic floor. Now, along with that, I'm going to send you a bunch more information that you can read over specifics on how to properly engage the pelvic floor. So click there now and it'll be in your inbox in no time. Now, let's get started with pelvic organ prolapse. I'm pulling up the diagrams now. So here is an image of a normal pelvic floor. And I'm going to activate my mouse here so that you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. So we have the normal pelvic floor. Here's our spine right back here. It's kind of like your tailbone down here. And then we have our rectum. So this is where we poop from, right down here. Then we have our uterus right here. This is where your baby grows and then comes out of the vaginal canal here. And then we have our bladder right up here and then our pubic bone. Now this musculature here is our pelvic floor. These muscles are what we want to be super strong, and as we've already learned, their primary function is to support these essential organs. So what I want you to note is all this space right in between the rectum and the uterus, and then between the bladder and the uterus. So you can kind of see these organs are really happily propped up in their places. And this is going to help to give you a visual of a normal pelvic floor with kind of a strong pelvic floor holding all these organs, and then what happens when the pelvic floor gets weak in our next image. So here is our weakened pelvic floor. Everything's kind of slumped down here. So again, we have our spine, our tailbone, and sacral area. This pelvic floor, you know how taut it was in that last image, is really droopy here. It's really weak. Our rectum's literally sitting at this exit point of the body here. It has slouched down. It's almost leaning back against the sacrum. And this space is kind of no longer a space right here in between the uterus and the rectum. So the rectum has slid down. Here's this arrow here. The uterus has slumped back towards the rectum, and the uterus is kind of falling here downward. It's a little bit lower than the last one. And the bladder's fallen downwards and tipped back towards uterus as well. So remember we talked about bladder prolapse. So see how the bladder's falling backwards right here? If you look, this is the front wall of the vagina. So the bladder can start to fall into this wall. If this wall is weak, the bladder just starts to fall in and can even block off this vaginal canal because it's sitting so heavy in here. Now the same thing kind of happens on the back side. The rectum starts to slump down. It can really push into this posterior wall of the vaginal canal right there. So we run into a lot of issues with any kind of prolapse. The uterine prolapse was basically when all of the tendons that are holding this big uterus up just kind of let go and the whole thing starts to fall down. So different degrees can be present. The uterus right here can tend to slide all the way down. It can even be present outside of the body. And in some cases, so can the bladder or the rectum. In some pretty serious cases, the higher degrees of pelvic organ prolapse. So just to get a visual one more time, I'm going to go back to the slide we just looked at of the normal pelvic floor. Oh, yay, it's up. It's so happy and firmed up and everything's in place. And then here's our weakened pelvic floor. Everything's slumping down, falling out of place. So this is one reason why we really need a super strong pelvic floor to help prevent this kind of organ prolapse in the body. I hope that really helped you understand pelvic organ prolapse better. Again, all women are susceptible to this, and 40% of us already have some degree of pelvic organ prolapse. So I encourage you to download the video I have below. Click the link, it'll be in your inbox in no time. Also, if you learned anything from this video, please hit like and subscribe so that you'll get all the future information that I'm putting out on pelvic floor. Additionally, the most important part is that you share this with all of the women in your life. That's because most women are not getting this education until it's too late, until surgery is required, or it's too late to use natural strengthenings to reverse the prolapse. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you for the next video.